Hi everyone, welcome to Clear Money Tea. Today we're going to be talking about Nikola. Have you guys ever wondered why Nikola, a company plagued by scandal and deceit, continues to exist? I wondered that same thing and was shocked at what I discovered. Systems embedded all the way to the top, which perpetuated this fraud of a company. Nikola was named after famed inventor Nikola Tesla. Unfortunately, this company doesn't really have much to show for itself. The dream behind the company was to bring hybrid fuel cell trucks and electric trucks to the market. However, dreams seem more like schemes in this case, and founder and prior CEO Trevor Milton stepped down in 2020 after allegations of fraud. Subsequently, he was found guilty of securities fraud as well as 2 counts of wire fraud into relation to how he was running Nikola. However, this is not the end of the story for Nikola. It just ended up being the next chapter. The company continues to operate, albeit under a new CEO, Michael Lashley. In case you weren't convinced Nikola is a fraud, or in case you weren't aware of some of the facts surrounding its initial downfall, let's get into some detail. This will really put into context the issues with the system that allows Nikola to exist. The real problem that plagued Nikola was that almost everything was entirely made up. This is a line from the indictment filed in 2021 against founder Trevor Milton. When you read further into the indictment, you'll notice that that line could almost be seen as an understatement. First off, in 2016, 2 years after the company was founded, Trevor Milton made a statement that the first semi-truck prototype was complete, meaning fully functional. However, at the time of the unveiling event, the truck had missing or incomplete parts, like gears, motors, infotainment systems, and a control system. At the event as well, an employee actually operated the headlights of the vehicle from a remote control. That does not sound very complete to me. Outside of the semi-truck, Trevor also announced that Nikola would release a light-duty truck known as the Badger. They were going to partner with an OEM, an original equipment manufacturer, who would help Nikola bring these dreams into reality. The OEM, who I don't remember being named in the indictment, but is very likely GM, was going to do 30% of the IP, while Nikola was going to be responsible for 70%, according to Nikola. Essentially, Nikola was going to be building the Badger from the ground up, which would allow the truck to benefit from the new tech that Nikola created. However, it's clear from the indictment that the OEM partner was pretty much responsible for everything. As of June 2020, Nikola only had renderings of the truck, and the OEM partner was responsible for all IP, and no one at the OEM had even seen prototypes of the Badger. The indictment goes on to say that Nikola didn't successfully develop any battery or inverter tech. Essentially, everything was failed technology or was outsourced to third parties. Essentially, Nikola had no proprietary tech and lied about everything at every step of the way to the public. Subsequently, in 2022, Trevor Milton was found guilty. The DOJ did not charge Nikola. However, in 2021, the SEC reached a settlement with Nikola in which Nikola would pay a $125 million fine, paid in installments over 2 years. And Nikola had to promise they wouldn't violate SEC rules in the future. Isn't that great? Wouldn't you love to commit a crime and just pay a fine and have to promise not to do it again?
And for the money to pay the penalty, it would be from capital markets or indirectly via subsidies.
Sounds like a pretty great deal, doesn't it? And recall, this is a company based on lies and deceit with no actual tech to back up any of the claims. Thus, even if you replace some of the staff, get a new CEO, there still is nothing to Nikola. You still do not have a real company. This was a massive fraud perpetuated from day one that continues to be listed. So to understand why it's listed, you need to understand what it takes to become delisted. Essentially, you're delisted if you don't follow the listing rules of the exchange that you're listed on, as well as if you don't follow regulatory requirements like filing paperwork and whatnot with the SEC. And as for cases of blatant fraud like this, well, it's funny actually. The government enacted a rule that the SEC can enforce which would allow the delisting of foreign companies who don't allow financial audits. And this was after Luckin Coffee, a Chinese company, perpetuated a massive fraud. And in that case, NASDAQ had the company delisted in 2020.
And they quoted 2 rules when they gave their delisting notice.
Rule 5101, which was for the public interest concerns is raised by fabricated transactions, and 5250, which was companies' past failure to publicly disclose material information. Essentially, NASDAQ delisted Luckin Coffee for fraud. However, they still allowed Nikola to trade on the NASDAQ. Why is that? I would really love to know. Outside of lacking clear and firm rules as it relates to fraudulently traded securities, the government allows retail investors to be duped by another form, subsidies and mandates. California has a mandate that by 2035, half of the truck sales need to be renewable energy sources. With that, they have massive subsidies through California's Hybrid and Zero Emission Truck and Bus Voucher Incentive Project, otherwise known as HVIP. The federal government also has renewable energy goals, and with that, they're also subsidizing electric and fuel cell truck sales through the Inflation Reduction Act. With that in mind, if you look at Nikola's filings and press releases, you'll notice that there's talks about orders. And you might be wondering, Who is placing orders with Nikola, a company with no track record of success and a track record of fraud and failure? One such company that's placed an order is AJR Trucking. So let's get into what AJR Trucking gets with this type of subsidy. For context, keep in mind that electric/fuel cell semi-truck from Nikola has a reported range of 500 miles, while diesel truck ranges to up 1,000 miles. Expected costs of the fuel cell vehicles are around $300K compared to around $185K for traditional diesel vehicles.
AGR ordered 50 vehicles
with the expectation of $270,000 in point of sale incentives from California, as well as an additional $40K in incentives from the federal government. Essentially, assuming Nikola prices a truck between $300,000 to $400,000, AGR gets a free truck or a truck that's cheaper than the diesel equivalent. This also helps AJR in meeting any mandates as it relates to renewably fueled trucks. However, I believe that there's some common sense rules. We shouldn't have companies who recently settled cases due to allegations of fraud and have their CEO convicted of fraud be able to be eligible for subsidies. This is something I've been reaching out to the programs about in California, but have yet to receive a response that defends the matter. If you believe that companies like Nikola, with a history of fraud, should actually face real consequences like being delisted or not being eligible for subsidies through state and federal governments, I'd recommend reaching out to representatives about the matter. Because overall, we have non-comprehensive laws, subsidy programs and mandates from governments, and lack of action or arbitrary action from exchanges that allow frauds like Nikola to perpetuate. If we really are going to give a company a second chance, fine. However, they should be made to earn that second chance outside of the public capital markets and government subsidies. And until we do that, investors and taxpayers are going to continue to be harmed from the lack of action. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Please like, comment, subscribe.